Come on, it is Wednesday night, and I am still Dan Lewis, and this is definitely on the Bywire. Oh my gosh, get yourself straight, Dan. This is on the Bywire, where we bring you the news you know you can trust. Please do make sure to hit the subscribe button, share button, like button, follow button, and all the other buttons that help the algorithms realize that this is the #1 news show on whatever platform you're watching on. Over recent years, public trust in mainstream media has plummeted to an all-time low. Declining newspaper sales have forced legacy media to look at other ways of maintaining profitability, and with many of these outlets increasingly shifting their focus away from print and towards their digital platforms, there has been a huge uptick in fake news and outright disinformation plastered across all of our social media news feeds. People are desperately crying out for a source of truly independent, genuinely accountable news that they know they can trust. And for our fragile democracy to survive, it is absolutely essential that we work together to create it. This is exactly why Bywire was created. So if you want to support the future of the media and become a part of the media revolution, check out our website after the show, bywire.news, and hit that donate button, only if you can. And if you can, make it a big one. Buy me a coffee too. Trust me. Anyway, you could be forgiven for thinking that today there has not been much news. While the majority of mainstream news sources lead you to believe that only one thing matters: bringing home a trophy that has never actually been home. It's like it's never been to England before. But I've got to say, good luck to the team playing tonight. I hope they do well. This year, we have definitely seen a change in the atmosphere around the type of support for our international team. Also, the players are like of a different sauce. Now, I mean sauce, like, hot sauce. I'm not saying they're hot sauce, but like, sauce, like they're different kind of sauce. You get me? Not like the mayo, the kind of peri-peri mayo. Anyway, I remember when footballers were all over the papers for like jumping in and out of different clubs and people's beds as well, and getting into fights and other shenanigans that don't make them good role models. But now we have Rashford and Raheem as shining examples for our young ones to look up to. There's a slight difference here now. I don't know if you'll notice it, but many have. The team have faced negativity because of this and other issues that have come up, but like the respectable humans they are, they've handled it in style. Gary Gowers from Byline Times has produced a fantastic opinion piece talking about the majority of people uniting behind the team, taking the knee, and also the woke accusations that have been coming up against the team. I've enjoyed following the Euros this year, and admittedly, I did not expect it to turn out this way. As I mentioned a few weeks back, when watching the beginning of a game and I heard the crowd cheer while the boys were taking the knee, I actually felt welcome. I really felt like, wow, I feel a part of this. And I look back and I still get those bad chills, remembering as a kid, those blokes with St. George's flags wrapped around them, throwing beers at my mum and I, while telling us to go back to where we came from, England, as they ran off down the street. Now, you never forget this stuff, like even going to play football and being told that you can't in case you get on your knees and pray to the ball. Like I've never heard of a religion where people pray to a dead piece of cow skin or something, but this is the kind of things that people come at you with when you try and get involved in international football. As a child, I experienced anyway here in England. Now this year, those people are in the minority, and I'm here for it. I am here for it. I love the political aspect and balanced view that Gary brings to this byline piece. Now, keeping with the good news here in England, I was very happy to see this story in the Canary. Yes, it is the Stockwell Six, who were wrongfully imprisoned in 1972 and today have had 3 convictions overturned by the Court of Appeal. Brilliant news, and I'm very happy to see it. I feel like it is a rare occasion in today's climate for us to see real justice. But this is a form of justice. Like I genuinely, like I look at the Royal Courts of Justice and I just laugh. I laugh because where is the justice? The Canary, as ever, go into detail on the story and have a look into the reality of police corruption around this story and further afield. definitely do check that one out. I think it's a great story, and I just love what they've done with actually taking it beyond this case and looking what should have been done before now. Now, back over to Byline Times. One of our regular appearances on the show is Sam Bright, who has been looking into at the £20 million paid by a few thousand families in mandatory self-isolation costs. It's crazy the amount of money that's gone on. Labour MP Justin Madders asked the government what estimate it has made of the number and proportion of travellers returning to the UK from red list countries that have been exempt from hotel quarantine measures. Quarantined adult travellers must pay £1,750 a head for their 10-day self-isolation. An additional £650 must be paid for every individual over the age of 11, and £325 for a child aged 5 to 11. With the cost of COVID on the government already being pushed onto the families who have suffered the most, while the rich have gotten richer, it is clearly going to be a long road ahead for the people who followed the rules. I'm sure Byline will continue to follow this story as it develops, especially as there has been no comment from the Department of Health and Social Care and the Department for Transport. Now, one of our regular independent partners, the New Internationalist, are in the house tonight. Yes, that is right. We have Amy Hall, co-editor of the New Internationalist, here to take us through some of her top picks of today's independent news. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you're not busy sitting in front of ITV right now, because where else would you be but in front of On the Bywire? How are you doing? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Brilliant. No problem at all. Was really excited to have you here. And as you know, we cover New Internationalist stories very regularly on the show. So to have someone behind those brilliant stories is absolutely fantastic. You've had a look at some of our top picks from today. And the first one I think you've chosen is from Open Democracy, who Agni Ghosh has been looking at India's all-women frontline defense against COVID-19 fight for fair pay. So this is our headline story on the show tonight. I love to see women taking on the fight, because where is a woman's place? It's leading the revolution. Tell us more about this one, please.
Yeah, so this is a story about community health workers in India. So the full term is accredited social health activists, or ASHA workers, or ASHA worker. I can't say that.
Okay.
But they're kind of healthcare workers who are recruited from their local community to promote healthcare. And often they're working in rural areas. And, as a lot of women have been, and health workers, they've been basically carrying the can for the last year and a half, dealing with the COVID crisis in India. And they have had enough. They want better pay. At the moment, they don't really get paid properly, get paid incentives. And they're coming together to protest about that and to demand better pay and conditions, basically.
I love that. You know what I always find interesting, especially over in India, like there is a very organized workforce there. There's obviously a massive population, and it's very often that in India you do hear that the organized workforces are led by women as well, which I think is just it's an example for over here in the UK at the moment, where we seem to keep fighting over which white man should be leading our workers' movements. I'm not throwing shade at any type of workers' organization right now, but it's a fantastic story to hear. And similarly over here, like you said, it is often the case that we have it is women that are leading in healthcare. With this story in particular, though, with what's going on, does it look likely that they're actually going to get their demands? Have they got the power in them, do you think?
I hope so. I mean, the situation in India has just been so terrible, and it's not just COVID that these women are dealing with. Like, they're dealing with all, some places they are the only kind of healthcare person. I think it says an article here, each worker serves up to 1,500 people. I mean, they should be getting paid like through the roof. And I guess it's just like what always happens with care work in general, like, the kind of undervaluing of what these women are doing. I'm sure that a lot of them really care about what they're doing, and they're doing really great work. And they've been kind of credited with a lot of the progress with immunization against COVID and that kind of thing. But like, yeah, it's work. Do you know what I mean? Like they should be getting credited for it. They should be getting valued. And again, people be the most value, the work that is the most essential is being the most undervalued. And yeah, I'm really, really behind it. And it's also, we've seen it in the UK with nurses here, for example, given like a kind of insulting 1% pay rise. And, all around the world, this kind of work is just undervalued. And yeah, I just really hope that they manage to make some progress. And I'm sure it'll be better for everyone if they do.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing as well, like I always find shocking is we see that there's been a lack of PPE provided to the workers. And it's internationally, like they keep saying that we've got PPE on order, or this country's got the PPE, or this country's making the PPE. Where is the PPE? Because every time we hear about somewhere, nowhere's got the PPE, the PPE equipment. If you don't know by now, by the way, PPE is like, yeah, I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically masks. Go on.
Personal protective equipment, I think is what it stands for.
There you go. I'm no good with these things. But yeah, personal protective, these masks, the aprons, everything. Because I was, during the pandemic, I was doing some organizing with some care homes. And they were saying that for every different type of job that they do, they have to have a different type of apron and gloves and mask, because it then goes in a different colored bin. And then they were saying, but they then didn't have the bins. And I'm like, people are making money, but no one's getting the stuff from the money. So like, what on earth is going on? And I can't understand it. And I think it is this story here obviously is horrible, but it's just internationally, I think too often care workers are the ones. Maybe we need an international care workers movement. I'd love to see that.
There has been some really amazing nurses organizing in the US. There's this union, Global Nurses United, and they've been kind of also working with unions around the world. And also, yeah, domestic workers, for example, I mean, kind of a bit different, but I kind of always class them under like care, because I feel like caring for the household is also important. And yeah, the more international solidarity, the better, I guess. I mean, that's what. Yeah.
I'm down with international
solidarity.
There you go. You said it. I'm struggling with my words tonight, Okay, so next up, we're going over to Manchester, who are, as I said before, they're in Liverpool. Put people, not profit, at the heart of land use, says Liverpool Land Commission. This is from Alex King. The article is from yesterday, but we're bringing up the article today. Very interesting, because they're talking about some important issues here in the UK right now. Obviously, Liverpool's gone through some big political changes over the last year. We won't mention too much about them, because I don't want to end up getting questioned by no police. Less said about that, the better. But what's going on in the Meteor, and what is happening with the land?
Well, so this is about a land commission which was established by the Liverpool Metro Mayor, Steve Rotherham, and they've it's kind of a bunch of people kind of concerned with land issues. Some of them, really great people who've done a lot of work on land issues around the UK, and they've come together to recommend how the city can achieve building community wealth off of land instead of using land as a commodity, and seeing land as having a social and environmental value. And so I guess they've kind of made some recommendations. I guess we'll see what happens with them. One of the recommendations that they've made was that they should be publishing kind of who owns the land in Liverpool, which I think is something that we don't often think about. And when you find it out, it's shocking, the amount of land that's owned by, well, obviously the royal family, but also Tesco's. I live in Brighton. Apparently loads of land is owned by Tesco's. Oxford, loads of land is owned by the university that you might not even know about. And I don't know, I'm quite passionate about this issue of land, because also I'm quite passionate about housing. And I just think it's all really connected to power, who gets a say over what happens where, who can live where, who can grow food where. And it's really good to see something like this happening. Like I said, we'll see what happens. But I don't know, what's the situation around land and housing like in Liverpool? I mean, I don't really know it very well.
We're in a weird situation. I was going to bring up, I'll come on to that in just a moment, but I was going to bring up, we were on the verge in 2019 of John Trickett MP was talking a lot about land and who owns land. And when you do actually look at the amount of land the royal family own, and then that whole story at the moment, a lot of people are saying, well, for a while now, people have been saying stuff like, we're full up, we've got no space. But when you look at the amount of land that the likes of the royal family own or these big companies own, you then find out that there's a lot of land that's very, very empty and not got a lot going on to it. And the other one is supermarkets. They own loads of bits of land, because what they do is they hold on to it and wait until it's viable for them to put a superstore on there or a local store. And then if they want to build a bit of land, say in the east of a town, that side of the town has not got healthcare or needs some extra resources, services, they'll say, oh, well, we've got another bit of land just down the road in the south. We'll build those resources for you there as a bit of a bribe. Now, there are some laws in the National Planning Policy Framework. I'm going to get really boring here because I used to be on a planning committee. But there are some laws, so I get excited about it as well, that mean that they can't really bribe towns to allow them to build what they want to build by building something else for them. But they still have loopholes in it. And land is literally being held there as like a bribe for not just supermarkets, it's other big companies as well, but they're like, oh, well, we've got this land, maybe we could use it for a playground for you. And it's so unfair, because if I want to put an extension on the back of my house, if I was so lucky to afford that, I would have to jump through so many loopholes and pay so much money just for the privilege to extend my house by a few meters. Whereas we've got these big companies who are literally sitting on acres of land and doing nothing with it. But here in Merseyside, it's there is a massive there are a lot of housing issues. There's a lot of people who aren't able to afford to buy their own homes. We are lucky in the fact, my friends back in London, they laugh. I'm very fortunate enough to have a mortgage, and they laugh at the cost of my house compared to how much they rent a month in London. But there's a lot of people who still are trying to get onto social housing or are in private rented housing, and many of the councils are looking at how they can build council houses or set up their own council housing companies, but a lot of the time it's too little, too late, or it's not enough being done in time. Just down the road, there's a community-run pub in Bootle where they're trying to build around 100 houses that are all self-sustainable. It is outside of Liverpool, it's Sefton, but it comes under Steve Rotherham's remit, and it's like 100 houses that are self-sustainable. They have shops and everything, all the services they need there. But the council planning committee knocked it back because it didn't have enough parking spaces. And it's a crazy situation where every house had one parking space, but the council wanted one extra parking space. But it's like, but the whole idea behind this is to reduce the carbon footprint of local people.
Many stories like that here in Brighton.
And Brighton's meant to be the green town, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to be anyway. But yeah, so and this is the thing that keeps coming up now. The councils can obviously, it's Labour councils here, they can blame the Tory government, and I often do blame George Osborne for the National Planning Policy Framework, which takes control away from planning committees. But at the same time, I honestly believe in the power of elected officials. And if you do have a group, a council of elected officials that disagree with something and want something to happen, then they should have the will in them, the fight in them to take on the government and say no. Because at the end of the day, the council should be looking at what they own, like what I suppose Steve's doing here, is really be looking at the land they own and looking at what can be achieved on that land. And if there's stuff in the way, then you change it. Because what's the point in having the word change if you're not going to make change? Otherwise, just take it out of the dictionary. Do you know what I mean? My mum, when I was a kid, she took out the word can't, because you can't. There's no can't in this world. You can do everything you want to. So I think the same with change. If you're not going to make change, take it out of the dictionary. You know what I mean? Yeah,
no, and I really like us also about this, that they also talking about the history of of land and the commodification of land and how that came to be, and that it hasn't always been this way. And I think that's really important when people are thinking about changing things. And there is loads of really great things happening around the UK when it comes to land. People trying to change things, take back land for community ownership, cooperative ownership, more social housing, that kind of thing. So I hope that this leads to something like real change in Liverpool and beyond. We'll see.
Real change. Oh man, we can dream. We can dream. The excuse me. The other thing as well with like community land, I always look to Scotland. I learned something interesting when I went there recently, that if you've got like a big garden or something, a bit of land, anyone can just walk across it. Like anyone can walk across anyone's land basically, because you just have the right of way or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but imagine here if someone just walked across your garden, people would be up in art. There'd be Karens everywhere live streaming to Facebook. This man walked up. But in Scotland, it's just like, hiya. I think that's amazing. I didn't test it out because a lot of people have big dogs, and I'm not a fan of dogs. Well, it's not. I'm not a fan. I like to.
You don't fancy taking one on.
Yeah, exactly. So next up, I don't know if you've heard of this organization. They're called the New Internationalist.
I'm not sure actually. Do you mean News International or do you mean News Internationalist?
Are these the ones that hack into phones? Yeah.
Oh, we get that all the time. Yes. So yeah, this is one of our stories. It's published on our site this week. So we're normally, we're mostly a print magazine, but we do sometimes publish web-only articles, and this is one of them. It's looking at the dock workers in Italy that have basically said that they want to stop arms coming through their docks. So it all started back in 2019 in Genoa, where port workers refused to load electricity generators, which were going onto a Saudi Arabian ship, because they didn't want them to be used to fight in Yemen, basically, or by the military to fight in Yemen. Obviously, they weren't going to use generators in the fight, but they would use the generators to generate power. Right. So, and since then they've been doing this, on more than one occasion. It's spreading throughout Italy. Recently, with the attacks on Gaza, they were refusing to unload arms from an Israeli ship. And yeah, it's just a really great story about international solidarity, which is kind of like what we're all about in the Internationalist, kind of workers coming together to think there's something really awful going on. What can I do? Actually, I can do something like right here. And it's unions working together. And, it's not just in Italy that this was happening back in May this year. There were, South Africa and the US and other places, dock workers refusing to load and unload from Israeli ships. But I really like this story. It's really specifically about arms, and they've just got a really big vision. Once they did their first action, they were like, what else can we do? And they're even trying to work with local people now to reduce kind of pollution and that kind of thing from the dock. And they seem to have, from this story, they have quite local support. This is by an Italian journalist called Futura Dabril. I'm sorry, Futura, if I pronounced your name wrong. But yeah, I just really like the story.
Yeah, I love it. I love, like I said before, international solidarity, especially right now. All of the stuff that's going on across the world in regards to supporting the people of Palestine. Here on the show, we're big fans of Palestine Action here in the UK, who are trying to shut down their Elbit factories. Is it Elbit? Elbit, yeah. Elbit factories. Solidarity to all of those who have been wrongfully arrested. And it proves that, like these things, they can matter to everyone everywhere. It doesn't matter who you are, what your background is. If someone else is being oppression to one is an oppression to all, in my opinion. And I might be coining a phrase from someone there. But it doesn't matter whether you're a dock worker, whether you're a health worker, or you might be unemployed. You can show solidarity in many, many ways. There's power in your purchase, there's power in your working, there's power in your voice. And I think this is fantastic. I'm so glad you chose this story as well, because I think it's just like I said, a perfect example of international solidarity. But also, I think Italy's it's got a rich history of people just kind of doing awesome things, people coming together, and taking on maybe some of the fights that you wouldn't expect them to. You know what I mean? It's an example. Maybe I'll speak to some of the dockers over here in Liverpool and see what's coming through our docks and start working with them. It's inspired me, definitely. But then also looking at like what they can do around pollution and that kind of stuff. I think that's the beautiful thing of when you organize people, they start to realize the power they hold in their hands, and the change they can make. So they definitely haven't cut change out of their dictionaries over in Italy, have they?
No, doesn't look like it.
Definitely not. So what else is going on with the New Internationalist? What are you guys up to? What's next? What's coming up for you guys?
So, well, we're in quite a good mood at the moment because
That's good.
we just ran a quite successful community share off and welcomed. So we're a reader-owned cooperative. So we're owned by kind of around 4,500 people around the world, and we just welcomed a bunch of new people on board. They joined us as co-owners, so that's exciting. We've got a really exciting edition of the magazine out at the moment about Myanmar. It's really kind of, it's kind of disappeared from the headlines a bit, but it's really delving into the civil disobedience movement there, like what started it, how it's going, who's involved, why are they doing it, and it's been put together by a really great guest editor called Preeti Jar, who did a really amazing job. And it's also just really beautiful looking magazine as well. So newint.org, do check it out. We're publishing articles from the magazine at the moment on the website, but the print copy is also nice.
The print copy is beautiful. I have managed to get my hands on one copy from one of our friends at Bywire, Thomas Barlow. But I've put the link in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. If you're on Twitter, I'll be making sure to share it later on. We can't reply to our own tweet from here, but the link to the website is there. So definitely do sign up. I love saying to people, when you support independent media, you own the media. But with you guys, like it actually is, you own the media when you're a reader and you put your money into it. So that is fantastic. I love the way you guys work. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I'm sure you're dying to get back to something on ITV. I don't know. There's one of two things on there that you could be dying to get back to. Or you might just want to get back to the latest copy of the New Internationalist. I heard it's great.
That's all I do. I just read it every evening.
Fantastic. Thank you. But like I say, thank you so much for joining us. I really hope you have a great evening, and we'll definitely have you back on soon again. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Wow. You know what? I love those guys. They're always bringing good vibes. Their stories are always on point. And just like this one here about the Italian dockers, make sure you guys do check it out. It is brilliant. If you guys have enjoyed tonight's show, which I'm sure you have, come on, because we bring you the news you can trust. Make sure you head over to bywire.news and hit that donate button, or at least subscribe, add it to your favorites, add it to your phone homepage, whatever it might be. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the share, all of them buttons there. You know what it is. Get the algorithms bouncing, because I want to be back on your screens tomorrow at 9 p.m. where I'm hoping we've got some more exciting guests. I know we've got some more exciting guests to come. So enjoy your evening, people. And in case you're bothered, it is still 1-1 over at that game that we're not watching. Have a lovely evening, people. Peace, love. You know what it is. Keep it independent. Keep it on Bywire. This is On the Bywire.